The Toronto Raptors have made another signing this summer as they brought in a forward with a very interesting skill set that fits the mold of what this Raptors team has been looking for under the new Bobby Webster era. So we'll break down that, including a new update on Jameson Battle's contract and a very, very exciting update regards to Brandon Ingram, who, of course, is that main star piece we acquired at this year's trade line, was the big free agent acquisition for the Raptors. They did it at this year's trade deadline, and we have a major update in regards to his injury progression. So lots of stuff to break down out here in this video, but I can't thank you guys enough for all the support we've been getting as of late. I mean, we're over 38,700 subscribers now, under 1,300 away from that major goal of 40,000 subs. So if you don't want to miss a single thing happening now, especially with Summer League starting up tonight and lots of games around the corner, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you can join this community. And it's free. You hit that button down below and it means the world to us. But let's dive into it because we have a lot of updates to really dive into out here in this video. So first things first, we'll take a look at the new signing. As, there was some weird speculation from Michael Grange yesterday coming out. David Roddy, there was a sighting of him at Toronto Raptors practice today. Training at Camp Invite, I'm guessing he's not on the Summer League roster, so that's what Grange said. There was some speculation. What the heck is going on? Well, then Blake Murphy came in with some insight, saying that Roddy is with the Raptors on an Exhibit 10 deal per a source. So Tyson Degenhart as well as Clifford Omarui are from the Summer League roster are also on Exhibit 10 deals. So some competition for that final roster spot for two-way churn as well as Toronto Raptors 905 implications. So that is an interesting person to bring in because Roddy is an NBA journeyman. He's put up some interesting stats last year. 5 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, 1.1 assists. Shot 31% from the three-point line, but shot 44% on corner threes. Again, not a massive sample size. So that is, a player that he's 6'4", but interestingly enough, he runs the power forward position. So he's a 6'4" power forward out there in the modern NBA. He has some strength. He has some size, and that allows him to play that role out there in, at the NBA level. He's stocky, built like a Lou Dort type of player, and we've seen he's been bouncing around the NBA a fair bit. He's played for Memphis, played for Phoenix, played for Atlanta, Philly, Houston, all these different squads. Still very, very young. Has had different, in terms of ranges of three-point shooting. Never super efficient out there from behind the three-point line, but does shoot him at a relatively high volume, just given his current minutes per game. He gets boards, he plays intense, he's a hustler on defense, and, a player that is worth bringing in to fight for that final roster spot. Of course, there are a lot of players out there in the mix right now for the Toronto Raptors roster competition. We look at the roster, it's pretty loaded, assuming no trades go down, which I don't think is a given the fact we have a new president of basketball operations on their way in. But basically, we look at the depth chart. Roddy is there at the undersized 4 out there in the mix. And, this team is a squad that is very, very interesting. I threw it to people on Twitter. Definitely check us out on X if you want some more Raptors updates there. But this Raptors team has a very interesting depth chart now, and this is how it's looking, how it's stacking now with all of these final roster spots, Exhibit 10 deals, and everything that's going on here now at this point. So if you see, at the bottom of that list, there's a few guys fighting for that final roster spot, and it's now David Roddy, who is this new signing, AJ Lawson, who played for this team last season, Castleton, who also played for this team last season, and then, as Blake Murphy put it, Omarui as well as Degenhart, they're all going to be in the mix for that final roster spot. So that's how this team is looking here now at this point. Everyone else is kind of locked into these guaranteed deals. That does not mean that other moves, other adjustments can't happen to this roster, but let me know down below how you're feeling about this Toronto Raptors team now looking at the lineup, looking at the depth chart out there as one. But we have more updates as a guy that's in the middle of that list. The 3 position for is Jameson Battle. We have some updates in terms of what his contract is looking like. As Blake Murphy came out and said that Battle's contract also includes a fully non-guaranteed minimum for the 2026-2027 season. Raptors will have until June 30th to decide on that one. Slightly different than the team option since they'd have to waive him and lose his bird rights, let him go into restricted free agency, lose his bird rights, and he'll can't not let him go to restricted free agency to decline, but similar functionality. So right now, we still have Jameson Battle out there on another non-guaranteed contract for the 2026-2027 season at the minimum. So if Battle continues to improve and continues to knock down threes at a high clip, that is extremely good value for a guy that shoots 41% from the three-point line, 41% of corner threes, and did it at a pretty significant volume for the Toronto Raptors last year. So That's a positive update in regards to Jameson Battle's contract, but one of the things that probably has the biggest implications on the Toronto Raptors right now, the piece of news, the update that we got that is most exciting to Toronto Raptors fans is really revolving around Brandon Ingram, who is a guy that when we traded for him had a really questionable, like, not in terms of like he's faking it, but how severe is this injury to Brandon Ingram's ankle that's going on? Because a lot of people talked about, hey, this is 4D chess by Masai Ujiri, by Bobby Webster, by Darko Rajaković, to say, hey, Brandon Ingram's ankle's really bad, so that's why he's not playing. But you'd figure, okay, if that's the case, he's faking it, maybe they'll give it 2 weeks to give the story some credibility, and then over the summer, things will be rocking out. But we still hadn't to this point, months after the end of last season, heard whether or not Brandon Ingram is back in action. Well, we finally got that update here today as Josh Lewinberg revealed that Brandon Ingram was cleared for contact today. He has been training with the team doing individual work, and the next step will be to start scrimmaging over the coming days. So this is crucial. This is, a crucial update that we got because we were kind of being left in the dark in regards to Brandon Ingram's injury situation, what's really going on with, the injury, how it's affecting this, how it's developing, and all that type of stuff. So now that we finally hear that Brandon Ingram is back healthy, back able to, relatively healthy, he's cleared for contact, being able to scrimmage with this team, that is crucial because we look at this lineup, right? I'm bringing this up a little bit here now if I get the right buttons pressed. Brandon Ingram is going to be a crucial piece to the offensive firepower that this team is going to be able to have out there at that forward position. He complements Scottie Barnes, RJ Barrett very, very well there. His ability to space the floor, create some shots, and just be a late in the shot clock shot creator because this team hasn't really had one of those guys in a long time. Maybe you could argue, the star boy Gary Trent Jr. was one of those dudes before, his production ended up falling off a cliff a little bit for this Toronto Raptors team. Any excuse I get to play that animation, I'm going to bring it back. But Brandon Ingram was that star acquisition for this Raptors squad. So, looking at him, if we have him out, then basically at that position, I'd imagine it would be a Baji or Gradey Dick or Jakob Poeltl, one of those guys going in the lineup. But at that natural, traditional forward position, CMB and Jonathan Mobo, I don't know if are the perfect fits in a front court with Scottie Barnes and Jakob Poeltl, unless what's the rumored is true. The rumors end up being true that Scottie Barnes has really improved his jump shot, which we've covered on a recent video. But basically, this, with the recent moves, with the recent updates, and now with the Brandon Ingram injury update, this is the lineup we can expect for this Toronto Raptors team heading into the summer. And then there's still decisions to be made on who's going to be getting those final roster spots in terms of Roddy, in terms of Castleton, in terms of AJ Lawson, down at the bottom right out there of this list. But that's what Summer League's there for. That's what training camp's there for. That's what preseason's there for. And also for that internal competition about who's going to start on this team. Because, Jakobe Poeltl right now is kind of 2 layers deep out there in the depth chart, which I don't think a lot of people are that excited about. But, people want to say, oh, lack of talent on this Raptors team. Of course, you have RJ Barrett, Scottie Barnes, 2 very impactful players out there at the 2 and 3 position for this team. And, you can make some arguments whether Brandon Ingram or Scottie Barnes are going to be the 3, 4, whatever, right? But off that bench, at that 2-3 spot, I think all Raptors fans are looking for Gradey Dick, Ochai Agbaji, Jameson Battle, and Jakobe Poeltl to get minutes next season. So that is things that we have to monitor, have to watch over the course of this year's Summer League, preseason, all that stuff in order to really judge how this team's going to look. So let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comment section down below. You guys the best thing as far as subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.